Hey there, it's the brand therapist Michelle B. Griffin, and welcome to your weekly personal brand therapy session. As a certified personal brand and PR strategist, speaker, and author, I'm here to empower you to put yourself out there so you can find clarity, build visibility, and grow your industry authority. I'm super excited you're here. Now let's get going with today's session. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of Ask the Brand Therapist. I'm the brand therapist, Michelle B. Griffin, and I am thrilled to have someone here who is a fellow personal brand strategist. Welcome to the show, Cher Jones.
Michelle, it is so exciting to hop on your couch because even brand people need brand people. So this is the therapy that I've been waiting for all week, my friend.
Absolutely. I think you are the first personal brand strategist in a long time, at least, that has been on the show. So that's a thrill. So we can talk all branding. But before we get into it, Cher, for those who haven't met you yet, tell us exactly what you do, who you help, and how you do it.
Absolutely. So as you guys know, I'm Cher Jones, and I help leaders and their teams build their brands at work for work. So what that means is a personal brand that helps them in their job right now. So it makes things a little easier to do when you have a great brand that falls behind you. But at the same time, they're thinking about how can they use their brand to build their career, and as well, looking from an employee advocacy angle, how does their brand work in alignment with the company brand, which also makes their brand and their job a lot easier. That's what I do. I focus on both coaching and training in that space. And it's all about your brand at work for work.
And I think you introduced your brand at work in the last year or two. When I saw it pop in your headline, I think I messaged you, brilliant, love that. And that's just basically your platform now. Is that right?
Exactly. So I'm really focused in that corporate space. I think that the missing element when we think about personal branding right now is that most of the advice out there is to help people market and build themselves, but it's typically within the business space. So a lot of that advice that's out there isn't necessarily for a leader who's not trying to be, whether they're not trying to be like that super thought leader who's on CNN and they're writing their books and all that kind of stuff, but they need to show up. They don't need all the advice that turns them into a marketer. They just need a powerful brand that will help them in their role. So I saw that space, and I've been playing in that space for a long time because my background is in corporate communications and PR with a side of broadcasting to make it interesting. And so what I do is I tap into all of my different communications disciplines in the corporate setting, because that's where I come from, to help people thrive in their leadership careers and move all the way up that ladder.
You are so right about, especially on LinkedIn where you and I hang out a lot. You have that incredible LinkedIn live show. That is really true in the personal branding space, and all the information and sometimes misinformation, I might add, is all about being this and famous and all this. And look, most of the people I work with just want to be really known in their industry, in their circles, their company. They're not trying to be an Instagram influencer. So there is a disconnect and there is a gap. So I love that you're really addressing that. And the topic we're going to talk about today is actually something that you introduced, and I actually caught it a couple months ago, one of your presentations, Opportunity Ready. I don't know if you've coined it, but I think that was the title of the LinkedIn Live. But I went with that. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Let's talk about what Opportunity Ready is, because for me, I use a lot of the PYOT. Put yourself out there. Visibility is not vanity. Visibility is being valuable. And this all really is parallel. Tell us exactly what Opportunity Ready means, and then we're going to get into it, and you can maybe explain, if you will, all the facets and how we can do that.
For sure. So we recognize right now, and especially what we talk about definitely is in complete alignment, because we recognize there's one thing I tell people a lot, right? You can add to your skills. You can add to your experience. You can add to your knowledge, but that will only take you so far if you're not building your brand, right? Because there's a level of what I call, it's a broken telephone range when you are not building your brand. So those people who interact with you on a regular basis, they can remember what you do. They can talk about you. The usually default to, especially if you're doing great at what you do, is, oh, they're an awesome leader. Oh, they're a fantastic person at this particular skill, or they're able to do this quickly. So they're able to talk on a very high superficial level that doesn't really mean anything when it comes to being able to articulate what it is you do and how you serve. So while you can add to your value through your skills, your experience, and the clients you work for, If you don't work on your brand, you are relying on this broken telephone system for other people to be recommending you, referring you, champion you, and all that stuff. And so what we need to do as people, we need to recognize that in order for us to be ready for what's out there, so that's opportunity ready, so that when somebody looks you up, it qualifies and quantifies the value that you want them to know about, because it's your chance to influence their perception of you, the story that they're telling themselves about you, and also the expectations they have for the first or the next time that they interact with you. So to be opportunity ready means to literally work on your brand based off of the opportunities that you want to attract and position your value and expertise so that when somebody's looking you up, they have the answers they need to inform their story and their expectations about you.
That is brilliant. And it's so aligned, as you said, with my powerfully position yourself initiative where I'm on. And it's really controlling the narrative of who you are. And this is not made up. It's truly as you. And that takes some work. So I know we probably can't get into that's a whole nother topic for another day. How do we get in and identify all that? I know you do that in your workshops and your coaching, and I do that as well. But today we're going to start with some quick tips that we could know before we start this framework to make sure we're starting at a decent spot.
Well, especially in the corporate space, so I'll focus in on my lane specifically, is you need to know what you need your brand to do for you. So in order to figure that out, you got to figure out what your goals are. And I believe that you must not only look at where you want to be, but also look at how can your brand support what you do now, because you are more opportunity ready when people are shining and singing your praises, right? So you have to make sure that your brand supports you in your job right now. So you got to take a look at what are the performance objectives? What are the things that I need to accomplish? How can I accomplish it better? How can I have better relationships that will move things along faster? How can I build trust? Who am I working with directly? So you got to think about your job right now. How can your brand help you do your job? So you got to look at those goals. Then, of course, you've got to examine where you want to be. And some people, especially the people that I work with, are typically in what I call the prime time season of their career. That is the collision of their experience, their knowledge, and their confidence coming together, because they are more like established professionals who really have, they're literally in what I call prime time. They're in that spot where it's like, I'm owning my awesome here, but yet not all of the awesome things are coming to me. So again, looking at what you want, what's missing, analyzing those pieces, and then that will help direct how you do the inventory on what people need to know about you so that you can attract more of that.
I know I've worked with clients, they have been doing exactly that, but self-promotion and advocating for oneself in the workplace and in the brand and business is not something that comes naturally to us. So that's a big area. So I know this opportunity ready framework will help. So maybe you could just walk us through some of the high level things on the framework that we could use and take action to start being more opportunity ready.
Pretty much, you can apply this framework to any branding endeavor that you're looking for, whether you want to be opportunity ready or whether you're actively seeking different clients or different opportunities at work, or whatever where you have an active focus on becoming a thought leader even. So the first thing you need to do is you get clear on what it is you want. So look at those angles. Look at how, again, going back to the things that you need to accomplish in your job, how can your brand help you? The things you want to accomplish in your career, how can your brand help you? Then as well, from a visibility standpoint, the areas that your company would value, whether it's a talent attraction and retention, whether it's thought leadership in a specific area, whether it is culture, corporate culture, those kind of things. Where can your brand have a natural alignment where you can share that side of your company, which will increase your visibility, especially as a leader. So look at those areas, because that's what you're going to use to establish your goals for your readiness, right? And then from there, this is where you are taking a look, okay, these are my goals. Well, what about the audience of my goals? Who's most important? Right?
Absolutely.
And what do they need to know? And that's important.
Because I was thinking you could be going down the wrong path. As you're saying this, these are my goals and what areas in the company, everything. You could totally be going down the wrong path that will not give you that visibility and that presence and that top of mind. So what are some of the roadblocks and hurdles we should watch out for if we are going down the wrong path to get to where we want to go?
Okay. So the one thing you really want to focus on as you are sifting and sorting through all the things that make you awesome. No one cares about all the things that make you awesome. It's all about relevance. What do you need to be known for right away? So what are the problems that you solve? Because that is what people pay attention to. Oh my gosh, she can help me. Oh, she has this specific skill, or he has this specific skill that I can leverage. So those are the things where you have to be very in tune with the goals that you have. What matters most? So what is relevant? What are the problems that are connected to those skills that you solve and that you need to be known for? And cut out all the rest of the fluff. So like a danger area, I would say, is we're always taught to put all the things that we've done, the laundry list of stuff that we've done. But do you want all that stuff? Because you put it out there, you might attract it. So get clear on what's most important to you. And also, more importantly, when you consider that, is what's important to that audience.
Absolutely. Sounds like you're talking a lot. What I talk about is the narrow lane concept. It's a better play on that niche word that is overdone. And that goes into what you were saying earlier about personal branding and the marketing side and not so much the corporate side. So find a narrow lane, because we have no attention span, sadly, anymore. Very small. Right. So we need to make it super easy, take the friction out so people know top of mind what we do or what we stand for, what we solve problems for, all of the above. So I absolutely love that as part of Opportunity Ready. So number one is know your goals. Number two is the problem you solve.
So identifying that and identifying the problem in the audience, right? Because it's all that you're doing, basically this deep dive in the inventory of you to determine what's most important. So it's the problem and the audience for the goals that you want to accomplish.
This is a lot like my brand GPS framework too. I knew I liked to share, and we are so aligned. It's like everything you say, I'm like, yeah, I get that too. I do that too.
Exactly. And it's just a different framing, and but it's still all like branding is branding. So what we teach is on a foundational level, and it's a good thing that you could be like, yeah, and this is how I do it. And this is the beauty of personal branding. We could be sitting here doing the same thing and then having slightly different audiences, even some in the Venn diagram, they overlap, and that's okay, because what's for you is for you. When you're putting yourself out there, and people will be aligned with certain things that you do and certain things that you do, like it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, it's a good sign when we're sitting here talking, be like, wow, that sounds like how I've framed it. Because what we've done is branded a process that we have become experts in our own sense. So
I'm always encouraging when I teach and coach to, hey, a methodology really helps you that top of mind thing. I geek about these. I have a lot. That's how my brain thinks. So that's a great lesson in this framework in itself. If you have a methodology that you've been doing something, or you hear people talk it back to you, start listening to those clues. Sometimes people do it for you. You don't even realize that until people tell you. So in this inventory view, and I love that you say the word, I'm always preaching foundation over fluffy. That's my whole thing. A lot of people don't want to do the work. They want all the stuff that comes from it. But when you do the hard work and get all that work out and you figure it out, it's all going to be way easier. So I love that we are so aligned on that. Let's talk about, what are we on number 3? Are there still 6? Are we still at 6?
It's funny because the framework that I've been immersing myself in the past 3 to 4 months, I've been redeveloping even how I am focusing on personal branding at work, for work, in a completely different mindset now. So I have changed things slightly, but the process, the foundational stuff that we are sharing right now has stayed the same. As far as specific steps, we're still in the same thing, where what we've done is we've closed in on the goals. We've identified what makes us awesome in connection to the audience and our skill set. And the next thing you want to do is master your message. So this is when you get to the nitty gritty of being able to communicate what it is you do and how you help. Because it's one thing to identify it, but you got to say it in a way that people get it and it lands with your target audience based off of your goals. And that's why you can't have this broad brand that tells everybody everything that you've done, because it doesn't matter. It's let's get their attention and then you can share the other stuff. So mastering your message is the next step.
I love this. I am a positioning and messaging geek. I love this. So I'm going to talk a lot about this because this is where I always say specificity sells. The more specific we are to people know who we are, we're going to be top of mind. We're going to sell ourselves or whatever we're doing.
Exactly.
So mastering your message, that's a big one because what do? We go when we meet people at events or whatever. We can't help it as humans, but we're curious. We want to know what people do or in the context. And to be able to deliver that succinctly and with clarity and confidence and the courage, when you nail that part of your brand, that is when I feel like the skies part, the sun shines on you. You've got it. And how many of us just freak out when we're like, oh, please don't ask me what I do. I know people who hate that question because they haven't done the work.
Right. And that's it.
Yeah.
That part right there. You haven't done the work. This is the thing. Branding is work. You do the work so you can get the opportunities. You can attract those opportunities. You can position yourself to be found. You can position yourself to influence, but you got to do the work. It's not this off the cuff stuff. The people who show up and are able to introduce themselves effectively, the people who have taken the time to articulate what they do within their profiles and not just on LinkedIn, but everywhere else where it's relevant to those audiences that they so want to be in touch with and work with. They've taken the time to make sure, so they've mastered their message. They've got to the point of clarity of what matters most. And that's hard work. But when you get there, it's game changing.
Game changing. Yes. So what are your best tips? I know this is a whole topic and workshop in itself, how to master your message. For our time together, how can they start thinking about how to master their message?
Okay. So first, stop trying to think like a copywriter. Oftentimes we see so many examples. And usually when I'm working with clients or when I'm doing my training programs, I do not use examples anymore. I used to because that was normal. People want to see it. And I struggle with that sometimes because I know people just need to see an example. But if we start with somebody else's perfectly written copy, because the best ones are going to be like, you're a copywriter and that's what it got my attention. So that means, wow, it's amazing. But I think that the average person is just not there yet. So if they focus on what it is they do now, right? So that's the big thing, especially when it comes to developing your personal brand, is what it is you do now, not what you did to be in your role. It's what you do now to serve and help and support. So that's something that I want people to focus on is the now, because that's why the majority of people are looking you up. Not what you did, they'll get there, but it's not relevant yet. So if I were to dig deeper into that question of what do? You focus on what you do now. What is that highest thing that everybody is searching for? What's that problem that you can start to position your expertise in? And one of the ways that I help people figure that out is if you remove yourself from the position that you do right now, tomorrow you were just plucked away or sent to Jamaica or sent somewhere where you got to chill on a beach for 6 months, what would come crashing down because you were not there? What is the contribution that you add? And what are the things that you lean on to shape that perspective? Because that's the thing is that we do the same thing, but we draw on different set of expertise to do what it is we do. So you've got to look at that to shape that perspective in your messaging. So focusing on the problem, focusing on what you do now, and also your perspective all adds into that messaging because that perspective is that layer that makes you unique. You and how you serve the world and what you do.
Perspective is my number one in my brand GPS personal branding framework. But I like to say, what is my standout point of view? It's your point of view and how your take on something, because I feel like we're just like robotic. Like I do this and no one wants that. In the age of AI and ChatGPT, I have said this so many times, our personal brand matters even more now. We need to come out and be unique and genuine and all that. So I love that. Maybe we'll eventually come back and do another thing on master your message because that's a whole topic in itself. And that actually keeps a lot of people held back because they are reluctant to get out there. And that's the first thing. That's the first connection points, especially in person. Now on LinkedIn, we can hide behind our headlines. And that's a whole nother topic in itself because that I think is where people really undervalue and undersell themselves because they haven't done the work, right? Usually that's what it is.
So you brought up a really important point, and I wouldn't even mind anchoring here, is like your ability to introduce yourself face to face can change someone's complete perception of what it is you do and how you serve, and cause them to pay attention, cause them to go look you up now, which leads into the next point, which I'll get to in just a second. But one thing that I want people to not undervalue is the about section. The reason why is that 98% of the people who see you on the internet are never, on LinkedIn specifically, are never going to read your about section. So stop making it for everybody and talk to those 2% of people who are actually going to double tap into your program, into your profile, and read what you have to say, because you are relevant to their immediate problem and interest. So talk to them. Do not write it for everybody. Do not tell everybody about, and this is where I get controversial. No one cares about all the little idiosyncrasies that make you yet. They'll care if you become relevant to them. So if you I find that especially in this personal branding space, we're spending an inordinate amount of time on the other side of us, like all the things that make us. And while that's important, that doesn't get you in the door. That makes the connection beyond once you've walked through the door. But we're trying to connect on things that are irrelevant yet, like in the beginning. So by focusing your messaging on the problem, and yes, bringing in bits of your personality, totally important, but just make sure, especially in my world, which is your brand at work for work, you've got to put the hierarchy in motion. So I could go on a whole tangent about that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Absolutely. It's the first impression factor. And when in doubt, just go with the problem you solve, wrap it around there, because people are walking around every day, the what's in it for me. We're, as humans, we walk around with the problems in our head immediately, or at work or at home, or someone's all at the same time. But when you find that one person, that antenna's up, oh, wow, they can help me. I need to talk to this person. That's when that starts. So
100%.
At the last thing, if you can't figure it out, just start with the problem you solve. Or
and you build off of that.
Yes. That's right. The connection starts there when people realize they can help me. I need to talk to them. I need to know them. So 100%. Instead of being generic, and that's a great tip. Headlines will reel people in, but the about section will really land well. So those two are very much connected. So good, Cher. This is so good. So as we wrap up, what is the last parts of the framework that we haven't covered?
This is when you optimize your digital presence. So you worked on your messaging, we overlapped into it. So I'll give it an actual title. You optimize your digital presence. And I want people to recognize that LinkedIn is not the only place for your professional digital presence at work. What people are now recognizing, or opportunities are being missed at work by not taking the time to update their talent profiles at work. So their online profiles at work, and they have they've abandoned their profiles if they're in professional associations or organizations. Take the time to update, because this is where people are validating who you are and what you do. So you want to make sure they're optimized so that they have the right information based off of your work, mastering that message. And it is cohesive and consistent and truly does position what you do. The next thing you want to do is, now that you've done this work, the messaging work, the profile optimization, the digital presence work, if you will. Now you've got to start making sure that you are connecting to those who will actually care, who can actually help you move the dial, and those people you serve. Because it's one big ecosystem that becomes this referral, that becomes this building opportunity for your brand and opportunities. And there's such a hidden opportunity market as far as things that you want to accomplish or get done at work. When you look at the people who are, for example, speaking on webinars for your company, and you're like, how did they get that? Or they're speaking on behalf of your company at conferences or on podcasts. And you're like, how did they get that? How did they get on that task force? How did they get on that special initiative? Those are the people you have to do some sleuthing to find out, who do you need to be in contact with, and what do they need to see from you, making sure that your messaging is aligned with that. And also then, so making those connections and going deeper with certain pieces of those relationships. And then where's the proof? So that's
Mhm.
content. You've got to show and prove what you say you did, what you say you can do, what you say you know. And that doesn't mean you have to be out there on these LinkedIn streets posting content all the time, because I would say the majority of people don't have to. It's about that evergreen content. So get the proof that would make people get you to hello, want to have a conversation or feel comfortable that they can refer you and say, hey, look at this. Or you can show them what they've done, what you've done when you introduce yourself, right? And then so you get the proof, and then you've got to revisit your strategy, because sometimes LinkedIn may become a bigger part of your personal branding strategy and you want to put more stuff out there because you have a bigger platform in mind. Or sometimes it's about, what are the stretch assignments that I can be doing? Who do I need to dig deeper with from a sponsorship and people who want to champion me or could be championing me? How am I leveraging my mentorship relationships? How am I supporting the sponsors, the champions, the mentors, so that they can, when the opportunity strikes, advocate for me? So those are the things that I would love people to think about. So get clear on your goals. You master your message, you do your inventory so that you can master your message, and then develop your digital presence. You optimize that. And then as well, you build a smart network so that you can get connected to those opportunities. Bring on the proof, right? Through content, and then revisit and evaluate your strategies so that you know that you're headed in the right direction.
This last part is not set it and forget it. And it's all about the people. It's all
Right.
about who knows you and you know them and you're active. And like you said, back it up. We don't have to post all the time on LinkedIn. I know I love articles right now because articles are very much high on Google. So when people are checking you out, and they will, I have found so many brilliant people doing searches and their LinkedIn articles pop up, and then it leads me down the rabbit hole. Oh, I didn't even know this person. That's how I found someone I'm following now on a certain topic that I'm just learning so much from. So there are ways, because posting can be a drain, but articles selectively and strategically, evergreen, can really stay there for life and really bring people to you. So I love those opportunities and those ideas. So Cher, we have covered so much. I just want to thank you for just dropping so many gems in your framework and just really helping us along to be opportunity ready. I always like to have an actionable takeaway and tip that someone who's ready to do this on this certain topic, what should they do next, or what advice would you recommend for them?
So the thing that I would tell them to do is first think about what they really want in the next 6 to 18 months, and then look at the evidence that's already out there. Look at the way they introduce themselves, analyze that, look at their presence online. If I were to pop the person who could grant you access to that opportunity, and the only thing they had to do, it was to be able to go off the way you introduce yourself, go off the way what they see online, go off your proof, will they go with you? And once you do that analysis, you'll see where your holes are in your brand, and then start from there. That will help you take the next steps, whether it's working with someone like yourself, Michelle, or me, or what's out there, doing the work first to say, is my brand opportunity ready or not?
And if one thing we can stress today, it's actually fun to be more self-aware and self-identify, because we just assume it and we never take the time. But when you get those breakthrough moments, not only is it introducing yourself, but you just feel better about yourself. It's a confidence booster.
It's
right?
such a confidence booster.
So Cher, where else can people follow and learn more about what you do?
The best place is always going to be LinkedIn. And I would encourage people, if they want to figure out where they're at and where they're going, especially with their brand at work, which is my lane that I stay in, you definitely want to go to personalbrandingquiz.com. And I have a quiz that helps people figure out what are the next 3 moves that I should be making based off of the analysis of answering 8 questions. And they're good questions. It's not the superficial stuff. It gets right into what you want, where you're at, and all that kind of good stuff. And then I'll give them advice on where they can go next based off of that. And of course, head over to sociallyactivetraining.com. And that's all the stuff that I do from the corporate perspective of really working with teams and helping them identify what their team brand is, as well as the individual contribution of their personal brand to how they serve their company as a team collectively and individually.
I love that you've aligned that. And that's why when we wrote that book, Michelle and I a year ago, the power of two, the personal and business brand, so strong together. Thank you, Cher, for all your wisdom and your just empowerment. Every time you show up, and I feel the same way. It's personal branding, it's personal development. I'm here like you to just empower people to be their best selves in life, business, and work.
Thank you so much for having me. I was excited to hop on your proverbial couch for some therapy.
Yes, you did. And you gave it all away to us as well. So everyone, that's a wrap for today's personal brand therapy session. I'll be back next week. But until then, keep putting yourself out there. You have a brand to build, a message to share, and people to impact. I'll catch you next time. Take care. That's a wrap for today's brand therapy session. Are you ready to get visible and build your personal brand? Then head on over to thebrandtherapist.io and grab my free resources to get unstuck and get going today. And until next time, thanks for listening.